I have sort of an unpopular opinion here. I don't like Space Jam.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Yes, you heard it here. I am not a fan of the cultural hit Space Jam, though in my eyes it's almost nothing to gawk about, but everyone seems to have crazy nostalgia for it, so there must be something there for everyone, right? I shouldn't be one to talk because I enjoy the first two Power Rangers movies, but that's because those movies are good enough for the fans. But even the most hardcore Looney Tunes fans don't like this movie. But before I delve any further, those unfamiliar will need this refresher. Bear in mind, this is the actual premise of a movie. The movie is about a group of aliens on a theme park planet called Moron Mountain that are looking for a new attraction to draw in customers. Their boss decides the key factor in that is the Looney Tunes, which they go to abduct, but the Tunes respond by settling an agreement with a basketball game, which the aliens are too shrimpy to win, so they steal the talent of the NBA players, get stronger, which leaves the Tunes at a last resort to recruit Michael Jordan as their coach, so they can win the game, or else they work as comedic slaves on Moron Mountain. Oh, I need to calm my nerves after reading that. Okay, yes, this is about Michael Jordan helping the Looney Tunes win a basketball game against some aliens. That sounds like less of a movie plot and more of a filled-in Mad Lib story. Well, the idea for this came from a commercial cross-promotion with Air Jordans and Warner Brothers, with commercials featuring Michael Jordan and other Looney Tunes characters, which apparently were so successful they warranted a movie. Yeah, it makes about as much sense as teaming up the Flintstones with John Cena. Oh, come on, they did that too! Imagine going into this movie not knowing anything about it. Aside from the top billing credit to Bugs Bunny, the first 10 minutes would make you think you're watching a Michael Jordan biopic, and then suddenly focusing on aliens in space and Looney Tunes. Trust me when I say, you're not stoned, but I think the writers were on something. Now, I consider myself a pretty well-educated fan of the Looney Tunes, and I feel like I know enough about what makes them so hilarious. Perfectly timed comedy, witty dialogue, great voice acting, and cartoony violence and antics. Looney Tunes gets it all down to a T. Space Jam, however, gets all of it wrong. The comedy in the original Looney Tunes may be infamous for its cartoony explosions and violence, but it never truly relied on it, as the comedy was usually dry humor that at times was a lot of wordplay and some hilarious drag. Space Jam's equivalent of comedy is annoying in-your-face, quote-unquote humor that tries so hard to replicate the original style but fails due to poor pacing and just being obnoxious, proving some comedic genius cannot be easily replicated years later. Sure, a lot of fans like the Looney Tunes show, but that was a completely different style that somehow worked. Even the opposing side drags when you cut back to Michael Jordan and his family. It doesn't matter what's happening because it's so boring you forget it just half an hour after you watch the movie. But Bill Murray is in this, primarily because he regretted missing out on his chance to star in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but even with a film like this, he honestly works. He has a pretty funny subplot about wanting to be an NBA player, and his side of the script was the perfect Bill Murray style. Take this scene for example.
What kind of camera is that? It's just Would you not point that at me, please, and close the lens cap? Doing that just to...
His scenes here alone outdo any part he had in Osmosis Jones. Now I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, how can you not think Space Jam is funny? Okay, I want you to watch this scene that's a generalization of the humor in this movie and tell me that it's funny.
I don't know if you guys are loony enough.
Loony enough?
You know, there's a word to describe the Looney Tunes antics in this movie. Pathetic. Here's another sad fact. I have a lot of respect for the talents of voiceover artists, but I am not a fan of the ones they chose for these characters. Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck in particular I'm bothered by. Bugs is voiced by Billy West, best known for Ren and Stimpy and Fry on Futurama, and Daffy is voiced by D. Bradley Baker, best known for animal roles such as Perry from Phineas and Ferb, Appa and Momo from Avatar, extra characters on SpongeBob, and Klaus from American Dad. But sad to say, they don't fit these roles, primarily because I think their voices are a bit too high-pitched.
We're right in front of Michael's house. I knew that. Okay, let's go in this way.
I say let's go in that way.
It's like Mel Blanc having his Adam's apple pinched.
I'm kind of partial to purple and gold myself. It goes better with my color.
The consistency of the basketball game doesn't even work. There's at least 4 sections, and the next is just as confusing as the last. The first section has them being crushed by the Monstars by actually trying basketball. The next section is them drinking water that they believe to give them energy, which in fact has them winning in their usual Looney Tunes style. The third section has them getting their asses handed to them by doing what they did in the first section, as if they never learned from the second, and the final stretch of them actually winning with Bill Murray in the picture. Why didn't they just do the whole thing in their traditional Looney Tunes style? That seemed to be working. And the Monstars have been assaulting them the same way each time, so there's really no consistency to anyone. I hate it. Trying to make sense of a Looney Tunes basketball game is giving me an aneurysm. But it makes more sense than turning them into post-apocalyptic superheroes. We will never forget that happened! Oh, and how could I forget the character that started this generation of furries, Lola Bunny. Warner Brothers' equivalent to Disney's Judy Hopps. Stop making rabbits thick! This is the movie where they first introduced this new Looney Tunes character, not to be made funny or anything, but instead to be the love interest of Bugs, and the sexy one. Because we really needed that in Looney Tunes. Hell, Bugs Bunny usually was his own love interest. But she really has no personality, and adds nothing but spank material to the furries who look back at this movie for what she's turned them into. Her one significant trait is that she doesn't like to be called doll, and that's it. They did eventually use her for later installments of the franchise, including Baby Looney Tunes and The Looney Tunes Show, and honestly, she's the funniest part about that show, so it's nice to know that she's evolved since this movie. Also, why do the Looney Tunes live underground? Like, there's literally a whole Looney Tunes world at the center of the earth for God knows what reason. Never explained. They couldn't even have them come out of the TV or something, which would make more sense. Great job, Space Jam. You made me give credit to the Fat Albert movie. You know, I don't like this movie, but I know there's a lot of people out there who do, so I'll give it some credit where it's due. Michael Jordan is not your typical actor, but he does a surprisingly decent job here, for an athlete. Nothing outstanding, but he does exactly what he should be doing. He's no Bob Hoskins and Roger Rabbit, but he's fine, really. He's miles better than any Charles Barkley performance I've ever seen, and I've seen plenty of Saturday Night Live. And Clerks.
Hey, kids. I thought we told you to get out of here.
And when it's just the 2D animated Looney Tunes on screen, the backgrounds are quite nice to look at, as was any Warner Brothers 2D animation from the 90s. All these backdrops of autumn remind me of the backgrounds from the Iron Giant, which are so beautiful to look at, and it's a lot better than those dated and scary 3D effects. Michael Jordan Ball does not exist.
Michael Jordan Ball does not exist.
Bill Murray gets a chuckle out of me every now and then, not to mention a really boppin' soundtrack, and part of the ending gave me goosebumps of nostalgia.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan!
And you know, maybe that's where this movie shines. The movie is a true artifact of the 90s, and a lot of people from my generation enjoy it because it's flourishing with pure nostalgia. Even I'm guilty of that. Let's put this in perspective for a second. I have a movie ticket for when I saw it in theaters for the 20th anniversary event. I have a comic book adaptation of the movie, a 2-disc DVD collector's edition, the Blu-ray, and a Blu-ray steelbook. So yeah, I'm part of that crowd. Let's put it like this. I don't hate this movie, but I don't think it's that good. This movie offers pure nostalgia, but almost nothing else for me personally. If Looney Tunes cartoons like Rabbit Fire, What's Opera Doc, Duck Amuck, or even the Dover Boys are the fine wine, Space Jam is the Capri Sun. Overly syrupy, nasty flavor you might have liked as a kid, but it's not the same as an adult. But you give it a shot just to revisit your childhood every now and then. But if you haven't seen Space Jam and want to understand what the craze is about, check it out and see for yourself. Now, it only makes me wonder if they did another Looney Tunes movie that was 2D animated, whilst also being live action, but also being more closer to the original Looney Tunes characters. Next time.
I'm helping my friends in their basketball game.
Do you know that your friends are cartoon characters?
Yeah, so?